Well, friends, welcome back. Part 2, number 14. As you can see from the window, the dawn is well on its way. And I have no conscious preconception or idea about where we're going to go next. I thought about it during the break and did not come up with any immediate ideas, but we'll see where inspiration takes us. And I urge you to follow along and come with me, regardless of the time lapse. Do not give time distinctions any reality in this level of experience. Well, I'm certainly moving. Question as to where. Oh dear, it's several places at once, so I have to choose. Oh dear. In the past few seconds, I've made extremely brief appearances in France 2 or 3 nights ago, watching the riots, the urban riots, and the police reaction, the large number of rioters in various French cities, sparked by the shooting of a young black man. Then I zipped over to the Israeli invasion of the Jenin refugee camp. And definitely an aggressive, angry war vibe there. No surprise, of course. The atmosphere is so polluted with anger and vengeance and bloodlust. It's quite remarkable. And you have to go protected to hang out there for too long. And maybe just a brief glimpse is enough. Though not to pick it out. In a few weeks, this particular aggressive action, invasive action will have been forgotten, and people will go, "Janet, what was that?" I understand. It's just in the last few days we've been hearing about this. We can easily go to the summerland, where people are living happy, contented, sometimes productive lives. When I say productive, I mean the joyful contentedness of the many millions in the summer lands are not anything to be critical of. People are satisfied and feel like they've received the reward they deserve after all their struggles on earth, regardless of which class they come from. Working class struggles, middle class struggles, rich person struggles, there's a definite sense of, as we float above the expansive suburban neighborhoods of big astral cities, which are pretty much like the suburban areas here, except as far as I can tell, the gardens are bigger and lusher. And there's a definite sense of, peace in the valley. And people are very good neighbors. And the harmony is palpable. I suggest, if you're coming along, to absorb this vibe, absorb this happy, contented vibe of the pleasures of the astral plane, the joys of eternal life, which people are here living and grateful for, and wondering how it can possibly exist, and who's organizing it. They think all these things, and often just give up. In the same way that people give up thinking about the awful state of the earth plane with all the wars and destruction of storms and terminal illnesses that take people when they're young. People give up thinking about that. Some of them put it in God's lap. God works in mysterious ways. Others get angry at God. How can he possibly allow such horrible things to exist? And others move to a sort of materialist, humanist understanding that it's a challenging place to live, and the best we can do is rise up to the challenge. So on the astral plane, the challenge you rise up to is the beauty and contentedness of everlasting life. Some just accept it and go, great, I just love it. It's like being on holiday forever. I'm going down now, I was hovering a bit like a drone there, and how we can fly in our astral bodies. And I'm moving up towards a woman who's tending to her hedgerow. And she greets me very friendly. Good morning, how are you? And I said, oh, I'm just fine. How are you? And she says, oh, just great. What could be better than having your own home and garden and not having to pay for it? I said, yes, exactly. All those bills, I tell you. She says, I get the sense you're still paying them. And I go, yeah, I'm visiting. I'm just passing by. And but yeah, I still live on Earth and I'm still paying all the bills. I take it you're relieved to be gone from all that. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, you bet. Coming here at first, leaving the children behind, that was rough. But I go visit. It's like I've moved to another continent. You just go back and visit once in a while and just hope that they remember. And I said, is your partner here? And she goes, oh, yes, she is. Yes. And she's, okay, we're standing at the hedge. She's trimming it. And I'm not saying anything about trimming it with your mind. If you want to use the clippers and stuff, go right ahead. And I think she sends a telepathic message because another lady, leans out the back door and waves. And I wave back. Hello. And she goes back into the house and is continuing with whatever she's doing. And she says, this lady, she turns to me and says, Pat and I, were discussing this earlier. Every day is like Sunday morning. You know, this relaxed pottering about after your morning breakfast. It's just so like how we lived on the weekends after a busy week. And I said, "Oh, so you left together?" Well, I died from illness, and she took the easy way out and came to be with me. Not to everyone's approval, I might add. And I said, "Oh, yes, I don't suppose they did." She said, "But she wanted to be with me more than be without me." So she came along, and pills, you know. And her family was not impressed, and they're still angry about it. They thought she should have stayed with them. And I said, yes, these petty rivalries and jealousies do continue. I said, I know about that. So she says, well, what are you doing here, by the way? And I said, oh, I'm just coming by on a visit. I do a series for YouTube on spontaneous projections, and I just thought I'd come along and explore the suburbs here. And oh yes, okay. So you're interviewing me? Well, your words are being transferred. Would you like to be interviewed? Well, you can tell people, even though I'm not quite sure how you're doing this, maybe you'll explain in a minute, that the life here is wonderful and much to be desired and emulated. I was something of a skeptic while I was alive. University will do that to you, and but I was curious, but not really in a spiritual way, more of an intellectual fashion. I couldn't quite grasp, even though I didn't really believe there was an afterlife, I couldn't really quite grasp why there wouldn't be one, if that makes any sense. And I said, well, I'll live with those words, and I'm sure the people that hear them will be intrigued. And you know, I accept them for what they are, and they're not. I'm not going to criticize them. And everyone has their reasons and their ways of coping with this radical change. And she said, yes, radical at first, but I'm getting used to it. So I'm wondering, do you teach at an institution here? Do you do courses here, as you may have done on Earth? It sounds like you were a teacher. Yes, I was. I did lectures. And I'm thinking about it. I'm not quite ready, but I've been told that our institutions of higher learning, and that I could find a spot for myself there. And Pat's more of a crafts person, and she's enjoying the transition to that here, and is setting herself up and is enjoying the great creativity that a freed imagination can permit here, and is moving into that space. We're also great lovers of amateur theatre, and we're in a theatre group here, and we're working up a couple of scenarios, trying to take plays we knew on Earth and adapt them to life here. That's an interesting challenge. I'm personally finding that when the comparison would be when you're on Earth and you're in a play, you might be playing a character that's missing a loved one who has passed on. And here that sort of gets reversed. You can find characters that are missing the loved ones on Earth. And until they know how to visit with them, continue to miss them. Have I got that right? Yes, I do. Anyway, it's an interesting process. We haven't been here that long. And still, big adjustments. And big adjustments, great pleasures. Like this garden. I mean, look at it. Isn't it beautiful? And I said, yes, it is indeed. It's gorgeous. You've done a fine job. Well, actually, I only did a bit of a job. I sort of inherited this place because other folks had moved on. And 3/4 of the garden was done by someone else. And it's so beautiful and so nicely proportioned and designed that I could only make, the smallest of additions and changes. So you mentioned visiting folks back on Earth. Do you do that yet? A little bit, but it's a little stressful. You feel their emotions in intense ways, and you're maybe not ready for that. So Pat's a little better at it. She's a little more easygoing, let's say. And although her family is resentful of her method of departure, there are friends and acquaintances and colleagues that she visits with who are still disappointed that she chose that way out, but there's a few that accept it and understand her motives and her desires to be with me. And I had a bit of trouble myself. I didn't really want her to do that. And anytime I did feel like I wanted her to do it, I felt selfish. And tried to ignore the impulse, the desire. It didn't feel right to wish another's death just so that they could be here. But that's pretty much what happened. I see. Okay, well, I'm not here to make you, defend your life. And Choice is just interested in chatting. And so, thank you for your contribution. And then she's saying, well, listen, tell me, what are you up to? I'm not quite sure what you're doing. And I said, okay, well, some of us practice various meditations, and we learn to project our consciousness from the physical plane to here, or various parts of here, and interact with people. Oh, I see. Kind of like, okay, I get it. Meditation, yoga, yeah, I know a few people that did that. And but I never really did it. It seemed a little silly to me. But that's great that you can do that. And you do this all the time? And I said, well, fairly regularly. And, I talk to various people of, I guess you'd call them celebrities of culture or celebrities in the political world, and see how they're doing and get their take on what's going on here and their, level of participation. And it all gets put on the internet, on YouTube, and people can watch and react. Okay, I get it. You're sort of like a psychic or something. A medium, a psychic? Well, to some degree I'm like that. I don't sit passively in my home and wait for spirits to contact me, although that does happen sometimes. I generally project outwards and go exploring. Sometimes with a definite purpose in mind, and sometimes, like this morning, just kind of roaming around and seeing who I see, like yourself. So I'm going to be famous, she said. Well, not unless you want to be. I won't even use your name. And she says, well, you haven't even asked it. And I said, yeah, well, that was pretty much on purpose. Identifying people as, especially people that have led private lives as opposed to publicly famous people who have that persona that everyone knows, private people deserve to remain private, I think. Ah, well, my chance of stardom's been blown, I see. Well, just think of the people that might be either annoyed or, disbelieving. Oh, that's not so and so. That doesn't sound like her, and that sort of a thing. I'm more interested in gathering impressions of how various individuals experience their afterlives, because everybody's different, right? No one's the same. We all have our individual variations, our individual lifestyles, our individual belief systems. And she stands and thinks about that. I mean, you sound like an educator, an intellectual, one who analyzes information and does so in a creative way. She chuckles and says, well, I guess you could say that. And I said, but you're not really like wildly religious or wildly political. And she said, oh, I've got my views on politics. And I'm not a fanatic. I'm not, a true believer. But politics, oh dear, has become so rife with arguments and polarities. In some ways, I'm glad I'm out of it. I got caught up in some of those frantic debates over what, race, history. Yeah, I was a history teacher, so it was a subject fraught with peril. You had to be careful what you said and how you said it, and I said, I understand. I'm on the periphery of that sort of thing myself. I'm not any kind of an academic or teacher, but I do take an interest in cultural and political history. And I'm aware of the great pressure, racial tension, and rivalry plays in that. So she's saying, I'm seeing that you have a sort of a double life. You have your life on earth, and you do enough here in this world that you have a bit of a life here too. And I say, yes, it is. It's a double life. We move between worlds, and she says, we? And I said, oh, there's quite a few of us doing this. You may not have met any, but there's quite a few of us. And partly pleasure, partly exposure to greater realities, and partly just the fun of it, as I just said, pleasure and fun. It's a great liberation to get out of the body and move around this world and the other worlds that border it. And she says, oh, there's more? And I said, oh, yes, there's lots more. And I encourage you to explore it anytime you feel the urge. And she says, well, I'd heard rumors about that, but we're too content. We're not ready to be going on adventures yet. We're happy together. And I mean, look at this place. Who couldn't be happy here? And I said, do you have any like cultural activities locally? Well, I said, you did say the local theatre group. I got that. And she said, yeah, there's concerts that we enjoy, and a variety, some jazz, some. I said, I can see you're thinking like folky singer-songwriter types. And she goes, yeah, that we like that kind of music too. And some jazz, definitely some good jazz here. And I was a jazz lover on earth, so it's great to be here and hear more. And the colors when people play, the music seems to bring out colors that float around the room. I do find that enjoyable. I said, yes, it's the synesthesia of that is quite lovely. So we look forward to, or maybe I'm just being polite, but I'll say to you, we look forward to these greater explorations that you're telling us about, and we will pursue them when we're ready. And I say, okay then. Thank you very much. It's been great fun chatting with you, and I'll leave you to continue with your garden chores. And off I go, and off we go. I hope you managed to make something of that interaction. I did very little description, so you can see what you can see, because that's really what's important. And we're now back hovering above this astral plane suburban area with, it's more like parkland than urbanization. The gardens are so big. Now, I know there's, closely cropped skyscrapers and condos in the big cities, and there's lots of that. But out here, people are living their suburban fantasy. The thing that they always wanted, maybe couldn't afford or access or keep a hold on when they were on Earth. There's a lot of that. A lot of people upgrading to their fantasy. And who can blame them? I'd do the same myself. So given that set of opportunities and the sense that you can do that and be even more adventurous from that home base than those two ladies were, explore other cultures, other planets even, from that place. You don't have to pack your bags and move to another planet. You can go visit and return. Just like if you can handle the vibrations, you can go to the higher levels of spirit and explore those levels, which are, quite different than the Summerland. Less form, less bodies, less structures. Anyway, just a little hint. And I ask you to think about those possibilities. For many of you, just getting there and getting settled down will be more than enough. And I'm not suggesting that you should follow my advice. You can follow it. I'm not saying you should follow it. Find your comfort level and be happy there. Now, for some of you, you'll say, well, Gord, I'm not sure what my comfort level is. And I say, well, that's great. You'll experiment and move around, and just like you might do here with various counties, states, neighborhoods, countries. I see that's becoming more and more popular with these young people that they call digital nomads that will work from anywhere. Because all they need is, a condo, a flat, and internet access and a decent computer. And they can live anywhere. I read about this all the time. And how the various countries are hustling like mad to get them to come and stay in their territory and work for them. So I think, is this only going to be for these highly intelligent IT people? Will the rest of us be stuck in our little locality? I'm not sure. But when one does see the progression, the movement, and it does seem to be part of a bigger wave to me. And if some of these innovations, the suppressed innovations from alien technology, actually get opened up through the efforts of whistleblowers and Stephen Greer, and energy systems become much more efficient and less fossil fuel based and cheaper, maybe we can all live those kind of lives. I can see it coming, although maybe not next month. Anyway, with those vitalizing visions of the near future, I will bid you farewell, friends, and happy journeying for you all, whether you're asleep or awake. Go anywhere and do anything and talk to anybody.